Hi, Bethany, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. If I can just ask you to turn your microphone and your camera off, and I'll let you know when your item comes up for discussion.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Al.
Jeff, how the hell are you doing? Long time no see. You're freezing up quite a bit on your video.
Oh, am I? Oh dear. Oh well.
We'll get through it. At
Yeah.
least you got through that last pretty good. I thought it could go on quite a bit. But then when you look, it's
I
like,
hope
hey,
Tony's pleased because he's got to work with this gang.
oh, it should be. I guess you pick a chair. You got to chair it, Tony, do you think? Or
I don't know. Actually, I was looking at the terms of reference, but I think that the chair is going to get decided in the first meeting.
yeah, okay.
If I chair it, I chair it. We'll
Yeah.
see how it goes.
It's a tough group.
Should be fun.
Councillor Bateman, are you able to tilt your camera up at all? The top of your head is cut off.
Oh, that's a good thing. Less reflection.
I'll put mine down a little bit.
The full moon is rising over Sooke again. Sorry, my battery power here is very low, so it's dangling over here. Okay.
Tony, did you ever get out to the home and look at that thing they did with their solar panels?
Yeah, actually, Dana and I took a little road trip with masks on and had a look around.
Oh, good. Yeah, I was there earlier in the morning, and I changed my time so to meet it with you guys, and you weren't there. But anyways, had a good visit. Really nice couple, and I was interested to see how they did with those solar panels because, you know, in this sort of northern climate, I was really quite pleased with how much power they were able to achieve.
Well, they were saying that they're pretty much not paying for electricity at this point in time.
Yeah.
They're hooked into the grid, so they got no batteries to basically
So
store it.
just be mindful that this is live and it's being recorded. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's all right. I'm not mentioning any names, just chatting.
I can just have a moment to all our guests that have joined us. If you wouldn't mind, please keeping your microphones muted and your cameras turned off, and I will let you know when it's your turn to speak. Thank you.
welcome to the meeting, Balto. My dog is beside me as well. So we're 7 o'clock here, so right on the hour. So I would like to call our regular council meeting of February the 8th to order. And our first item of business is just to recognizing that we are meeting virtually on the territory of the Sooke Nation. Our first resolution is regarding Ministerial Order M192. That council is holding this meeting without members of the public in attendance under Ministerial Order M192, as council chambers cannot safely accommodate the unknown number of public participants wishing to attend, and that council is committed to ensuring openness, transparency, accessibility, and accountability through the submission of written comments and the provision of live and recorded broadcasts of the meeting. So look for a mover, please, of item 6. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Bateman. Any comments? Been through this one before. Anyway, all those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. The second part there actually is item 6, and that is approval of tonight's agenda. And councillors, just be mindful that there is new business and supplementary information. So I'll look for approval of the meeting of the agenda for February 8th regular meeting of council. Be adopted as circulated with the supplementary info. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So that opens us next item 7, which is public and statutory hearings. So I'm just going to ask our corporate officer at this point, I ask you this all the time, but in regards to the statement, I'm just looking at this. It says open the public hearing. So am I to read the statement now or after the staff report?
Now, please, the staff
Now.
report is part of the public hearing.
Thank you for that clarity. So this public hearing is being held pursuant to the Local Government Act. At this public hearing, any person who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaw will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are the subject of this hearing. Copies of written submissions received to date are available. It is important that all who speak at this hearing restrict their remarks to matters contained in the bylaw, and it is my responsibility as chair of this hearing to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. For those of you who wish to speak, please at the appropriate time commence your address to council by clearly stating your name and municipality of residence. Then you may give us the benefit of your views concerning the proposed bylaw. Submissions must be received before or during the public hearing in order to be considered by council. Members of council may, if they so wish, ask questions of you following your presentation or submission. However, the main function of council members this evening is to listen to the views of the public. It is not the function of council at this public hearing to debate the merits of the proposed bylaw with individual citizens. Everyone who deems his or her interest in property to be affected shall be given the opportunity to be heard at this hearing. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making his or her view known. Please note that this hearing forms part of tonight's regular meeting of council and as such is being video recorded. Videos and their contents, including any personal information disclosed during this hearing, will be posted and remain on the district website. So on that note, I officially declare the public hearing open and will now turn to staff for our presentation regarding 5126 Sooke Road, please.
Thank you. I'll just begin here with sharing my screen. I think it might have froze 1 second here. Great. Can you see the screen with the two maps on there?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thanks. All right. The applicant has submitted a rezoning application to rezone approximately 1.35 hectares from the rural RU2 zoning to general commercial C2, as shown on the outlined area of the subject property map on the left. This rezoning will allow the owners to maintain their 3.98 hectares of commercially zoned land because 1.35 hectares will be removed for the Highway 14 realignment as shown on the map to the right. And you can just see with the cursor here, this is the future highway alignment area hatched out there. Extending the commercial zoning north will allow Adrenaline, a business that has been displaced by the highway realignment, to relocate and continue operating. The rezoning will also allow the owner to develop a small commercial development within the new Gillespie Access Road roundabout. These services will complement the highway improvements and provide commercial convenience services to an area with limited choices. The lands on which the 17 Mile Pub and Liquor Store are located are not subject to the rezoning as these lands remain within the existing C2 zoning. So this map here is just showing a bit of what the highway realignment improvement project looks like from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. And the area around the 17 Mile site will include a new transit interchange on the north and south sides of the highway with the safe pedestrian connections to the north and south of the highway and a park and ride facility as well. So notwithstanding the rezoning, the applicant has applied for a subdivision to create 3 new lots, which are shown here with the stars on the map on the left. The lots shown by the blue stars will become isolated parcels bounded by realigned road rights-of-way and the configuration of the new Gillespie Road interchange. The third lot, shown with the red star, will be the new location for Adrenaline with proposed parking facilities, zip lining, and administrative offices. The plan to the right shows a conceptual commercial complex and the location of the existing pond. A qualified environmental professional has reviewed the site and has recommended that the streamside protection enhancement area can be reduced from the 30 meters down to 10 meters. This plan is an example here on the screen of what a rural-style commercial complex could look like. To achieve compliance with the official community plan and the rural residential designation, staff recommends prohibiting uses which typically operate in a more urban area and which require extensive services from locating on the properties subject to the rezoning. The applicant has agreed to the proposed prohibited uses as presented in the zoning amendment bylaw. Staff recommend adding amusement facility outdoor to the permitted uses in the C2 zoning to allow Adrenaline to operate as a permitted principal use. Staff also recommend adding community care facility to provide potential daycare opportunities and replace one accessory dwelling unit per lot with one accessory duplex per lot to allow for an additional dwelling unit for caretakers and or the employees. The development permit for form and character is not required at this point in time under the current official community plan. When the owners are ready to develop the property, staff will review the bylaw of the day, including the official community plan, to determine if a development permit is required prior to a building permit. A landscape proposal has been prepared by the landscape architects, and this plan provides an excellent detailed illustration of the compensation plan and recommendations presented in the habitat assessment. Prior to issuance of the development variance permit, this plan will be finalized and attached as a schedule to that permit. The landscape plan also provides an illustration of what a building site may look like adjacent to the stream site protection enhancement area. Details with regards to landscaping outside of this area within the commercial site will be reviewed further at a time of development, either through a development permit process if the official community plan of the day requires such, or at the building permit stage. At that time, a stormwater management plan will be required to be submitted. Specific measures such as permeable paving and materials will be reviewed as methods to prevent stormwater runoff from entering the area untreated. The rezoning application as presented is supported by the official community plan and staff. The development variance permit is supported with the condition that the land be developed in accordance with the habitat assessment and the landscape streamside protection enhancement area restoration plan. That concludes my presentation, and the applicant and their consultants are also in attendance tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Paulo, for the presentation. So procedurally what will happen now is I'll turn to counselors to see if you have any questions from staff and or the applicant. And once that is completed, then we'll turn to members of the public that would like to present to us, and then we'll carry on from there. So any questions from members of council? Councillor Beddoes?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is, I guess, for staff or the applicant, is that pond that's there. I understand that that is a man-made development that came into being when they realigned the road some 30 years ago, and it wasn't a pond before that. It's just backed up since. Is that a correct statement?
I will speak. Yes, I think Justin is also on this call from Toronto. But yes, that is correct.
Excuse me, sir. Could you please just introduce ourselves so the viewing public knows who you are?
Yes. My apologies.
That's okay.
Madam Mayor. Dean Strongatharm. I am actually the applicant on behalf of the Wilson family, and I'm a planning consultant. And as I say to the councillor's question, yes, it was something that was man-made as a result of the highway realignment, oh gosh, many years ago, but it is now subject to riparian area regulations because there is connectivity to a creek downstream.
Okay, thank you for that.
Other questions from members of council? Councillor Bateman, then St. Pierre.
Yeah, so my question through you to staff revolves around the pond and the setback and the fact that the Aquatex report will be, and the landscape plan will be a part of the development variance permit. How does the district monitor the actual implementation of that landscape plan?
Mr. Pello?
So as part of the landscape plan and the agreement for that, there'll be a number of plantings and other features that are included as part of that. So in addition to any securities bonding that's provided, as part of that process, they'll be released at significant portions when the applicant indicates that all works have been completed. So it will go through a staff review process.
Okay, thank you. Councillor St. Pierre.
I was particularly impressed in previous presentations because this particular development at that point was including mention of staff housing and potential daycare facility. And I was just curious, how likely are those two things to actually happen? Are they a definite part of the development, or just wondering what our likelihood is? Thank you.
It's Dean Strong, I'm speaking again, and once again, Justin may be able to speak, or other member of the family, but it's not absolutely certain. But with the thought process around the daycare is that because it will be a park and ride, and because of the sort of the transit stop, it's thought that it would be a really good spot for that to occur. So obviously, we don't have anyone lined up, or the Wilson family doesn't have anyone lined up, but it just seems to be kind of a natural fit. So that's why we wanted to make sure that that was included. And then similarly, was as far as the potential for housing and having either a caretaker on site or some staff housing, that's always been a real issue these days. I don't think I have to tell anyone in council about the cost of affordable housing. So once again, it's not specifically that there's something identified for tomorrow afternoon, but it's just realize the circumstances that we're living in, that we wanted to have that, the Wilson family wants to have that opportunity to allow for that. I don't know. I trust that's answered the question.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of council? Okay, see none. So I'm going to ask our corporate officer, Ms. Machada, are you able to introduce the members of the public? And may I hand that to you?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Besides the applicants and family members, I believe the only person I have registered to speak is Luke Deering, but he did also mention that he may have a neighbor with him who would also like to speak to it.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Deering. And if your neighbor is present, if you could introduce your neighbor as well, please.
Hello, Luke Deering here and Brian Sawyer. We together own the properties that border where the proposed development for the zip line would go. We've both been living at our properties for more than 15 years, Brian for over 30. When the zip line went in long ago, well, a few years ago, it disturbed our serenity in our properties. You know, a property where we play with our young families. And when we purchased the properties, backed onto rural property with no chance of commercial development. So having the site located directly on our property line for the commercial development of the zip line is I think something we'd like to explore. I think that the exposure to rural property crime as it continues to increase in our area is a concern for both of us, or myself in particular. The safety of my children in the back with cars and buses as our property borders that. And then, of course, the increased noise level from currently screaming zipline riders down, and these noises carry through the forest to our houses, and having the buses unload there in large parking lots is something that I'm interested to discuss with the applicants, what sort of noise abatement, and a bunch of further questions as I've outlined in my letter to council. So I think we are the two affected properties for this development. As mentioned, the other locations are surrounded by highway, but these ones do definitely border on rural properties, which we purchased many years ago, decades ago, and has changed it's changed everything for our properties. So further development is, again, we need to discuss what is going on in terms of noise control, security, and what the plan is for the zip lines. Will there be added zip lines put in? What sort of staffing will be there? How many people are they expected? What are the proposed openings of the zip line? Is it going to extend past the current openings in the summer? Or is it going to continue just being a 4 to 6 month opening? And I think my main question is, why is the proposed commercial development bordering on our RU2 zoned properties when there's plenty of other land on the applicant's property where they could house this commercial development, which would be surrounded by their own property as opposed to bordering on our property? So I think that is the main question that I have. Brian, would you like to add?
Well, it's supposed to be rural, and I can't see why they're putting it, changing that to commercial use so close to where we are, which is supposed to be rural. It doesn't make sense to me, and I say I don't like to be next to a bunch of stores, you know, with people doing their, you know, purchasing of commercial stuff. It just doesn't seem right to me. That we should change the rural standard of it.
Mm-hmm. Brian actually will have the entrance road to the zip line redevelopment will actually ride about 75 to 100 feet from Brian's property, or from his house.
From his hat, yeah.
So
back.
Yeah, and that was consistent before of RU2 zone property. And now it's already been logged and developed ahead of the zoning application, actually, which I understand is okay, but
this new road, by the way, it was 4 acres of my property was requisitioned. It cuts right across my property. This new road, so it's quite a shock.
Mm-hmm. This is behind.
Thank you, Mr. Deering. Mr. Brian, I'm sorry, could I catch your last name again, please?
So sorry.
Your last name.
My name is Sawyer. S-A-W.
Sawyer. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sawyer and Mr. Deering. Maybe what we can do is I'll see if there's other, I think you're the only members of the public present.
Okay.
Is that, and then I can have, it looks like the applicant is able to answer these questions for you. So we'll sort of go through it. Sorry, it's a bit clunky, but it's our way of doing this hearing right now. Ms. Machada, is that correct that Mr. Deering and Mr. Sawyer are only 2 registered speakers?
I have Bethany Wilson, Jeremy Wilson, and Justin Wilson. If any of them wanted to speak, now would be the time. Otherwise, we just have the applicant.
Jeremy Wilson can speak.
Okay, Mr. Wilson, are you able to turn your camera on?
Unfortunately, it is not working. I've tried, and it did work last council meeting. For some reason, it doesn't. If it's okay, I can just speak, and I apologize that I can't use the video.
We can hear you. That's fine.
Okay, so
I can see him.
Yeah. Yeah, and first of all, you know, I appreciate your thoughts and our neighbors. I mean, I've lived here for 45 years, and my family bought the property in 1940. So, and Brian, I really do sympathize with where you're located. And I know when we built the zip lines, we had conversations to try to mitigate those noises. And I could really understand your concerns with the zip lines. I'm happy to see, like, this. Obviously, we didn't ask for highways to come move 3 of our zip lines. So, but for answer your question, for quietness, those zip lines are actually the ones that you would hear are no longer there. So we're now rebuilding way up the back. So the noises that you more likely heard are those lines no longer exist. So I think just to answer that component of the noise, I feel that the noise component related to the zip lines would be less. So I'm just answering that component. But as far as operational changes and so forth, that's a longer conversation, and I'd be happy to talk to you and try to address some of your guys' concerns.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to our corporate officer to work through the speakers list, please.
Yes, I believe Justin Wilson has his camera on and would like to speak. Need to unmute your microphone, Mr. Wilson.
There you go. Sorry, can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Just for clarity purposes, I think, yeah, my brother Jeremy just spoke. He's a little more familiar with the zipline operations. And I believe the home that these gentlemen are speaking about are a beam commercially zoned property already. And then the zoning's pushing farther up. So I think it may be worth identifying on a map, which your corporate officer already showed, to identify where the gentleman's house is. And the zoning, like I said, his house is a beam commercial zoning already. So I think he's maybe just a little unaware where the commercial zoning was. So his house bordered on a C2 zoning before.
My property did not.
Yeah, and I guess I'm unfamiliar with where your property is, and I think I just understand where the other gentleman's property is.
Mm-hmm. Mine's the next one up. Where my kid's fort is where the view of your building will go, right adjacent to where we've been playing for the last 15 years.
Yeah, you know what, I think my brother summarized it. Ministry of Transport came to us and pushed a highway through our property. So certainly there's a sacrifice going on our side of the property line. I can tell you that. You know, a tree just hit my chicken coop on my house. I live across the street, and I'm losing quite a bit of my own property. So in the name of progress, you know, our family's been disrupted quite a lot. And so we're trying to pick together our pieces. And, you know, I would certainly be, like my brother, certainly happy to sit down with you guys and work the best we can for something that's kind of thrown on everybody's plate in our area.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have the same economic
Thank you.
benefit.
Sorry, I do need, thank you. I am chairing this meeting, so I just need to move through it in the best way. And what council is doing tonight through this rezoning is hearing the views of the public that are impacted. So that's where we do appreciate you raising this to our concern so that we can take this into consideration going forward. Ms. Machada, can I turn back to you to work through the speakers list?
I'll just ask if there is anybody else on the meeting that would like to speak to this item. Now is your opportunity. Either turn your camera on or raise your hand. I don't see anything, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I'll just call then Mr. Deering, or sorry, Mr. Sawyer, do you have other comments that you would like to make?
I would like to take up the applicant's invitation for a sit down and discuss what's going on the back in the near future. I would warmly welcome that.
Okay, so that is something that perhaps I'll leave the Wilson family and your applicant perhaps to reach out to Mr. Deering and Mr. Sawyer accordingly. Typically wouldn't be something that I would coordinate for you. I'd kind of leave it for you to connect accordingly and follow up, please.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've also submitted a letter to the council voicing my questions for the applicant. So I assume that's been received.
Yes, so we did receive that today, and we have that here as well as a few of the other ones here. And some of your questions were around the noise abatement, intrusion of unwanted, well, trespassing, and how that may be addressed in the future. And I can see here, and the rest of the noise and so forth. So we do have your letter here, and the applicant would have that as well as part of their package.
Okay, yeah, and also the note of the chosen location as opposed to another location on the property, I think is important.
Okay, sorry, could you repeat that?
The chosen location for the third commercial property that borders on our properties I'd like to know if that can be reviewed and put in a location that was surrounded by the property owned by the 17 Mile as opposed to bordering our properties.
Okay, perhaps if I could turn to the applicant's representative, are you able to answer that for us, please?
I will certainly try. As I say, the lower part of the what would be the third parcel, parcel C, that is, as Justin mentioned, is already zoned. So it's the area kind of going up farther up the hill, which obviously has to have access to a public road to create the lot. And so as a consequence, that lot is configured in a way that allows for obviously to be fronting onto a public road and to get actual access off of what will be the Gillespie bypass. So once again, simply because of highway regulations, there's limitations as to highway access points. And the access point, for example, that is currently shown is what has been the one area that's been approved by highways. I mean, I do think perhaps moving forward, there may be some opportunities to have discussions with the neighbors with respect to, for example, the location of the parking area. There's a couple of spots as you're going up the hill which are flat, and maybe we could have, that's not defined. There's just been strictly a conceptual plans done to know where there's a couple of areas where they could be located, and perhaps we could have a conversation with the neighbors just to make sure that we can locate them to mitigate any noise. And I think the other thing I would just mention is also that what I have seen, and I am not the zip line expert, I must admit, but in fact, as I say, the new zip lines actually all go farther north beyond the area of the proposed zoning. So they are actually going away from I think some of the noise that the gentleman in, I believe it's lot B, I think, Mr. Deering, I guess, I do think that will be actually mitigated as a result of this rezoning. And finally, just to recur, where the commercial village center is being located is not adjacent to Mr. Deering's property. It's in just to be clear, it's actually in what I refer to as the donut hole. So I don't think impact wise that the village commercial center will have any impact on the neighbors. But certainly, I think there's a couple of things that we can look at with the neighbors with respect to, let's say, the parking and the driveway access, and hopefully come to something that will certainly help mitigate any concerns they have with respect to noise and traffic. Parking, I should say.
Yeah, no, I clearly stated that the zip line is what's bordering on my property. The commercial part is not at all.
Yes,
yes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. Anything further from any of the members of the public that are registered to speak tonight?
Anything good?
No, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Thank you for joining with us this way. We really appreciate both your written submission and for joining us and presenting. Thank you very much for taking the time and expressing your concerns with us tonight.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So on that, council, typically I would call 3 times out. I feel that we've done that, and also just given the way the technology has worked, we can confirm that everyone who has spoken and or is registered to has currently done so. So on that, I'm going to close the public hearing completely. And at this point, revert the matter back to council. So if I could have all non-councillors, please, if you could please turn off your cameras, and then it just puts council in front of me. Thank you. Okay. So I'll turn back to council. We've received the staff report, asked questions, and have heard from members of the public. So the recommendation in front of us tonight is that council give third reading to the bylaw cited as zoning amendment bylaw number 805-600-83 2021. Is there a mover for this? Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor McMath. Councillor St. Pierre, would you like to comment now?
Just very briefly, I'd like to note that we did actually receive correspondence that was in favor of a development for once. We've got people in Sooke that are looking forward to having some services And I think it's a good development. I'm really glad that the proponents are willing to work with the neighbors. I think that good fences and good noise abatement makes good for good neighbors. And I hope they come to some good solutions.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McMath, any comments?
No, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from members of council? Councillor Bateman?
Yes, thank you. I agree. This is a really good addition to this rapidly changing neighborhood of North Sooke. It's a fair and equitable trade-off for the Wilson family. I'm sorry to hear about the impact on the neighbors. It's so good to know that there will be sit-downs and discussions. And I'm really delighted to know that this commercial node will be taking place, that this historic coaching inn will continue to welcome weary travelers, and they can, I think the pond will have some picnic tables and various other ways that people can enjoy nature. And on that point, my concerns about that pond setback are truly well addressed in the Aquatex report. And if indeed the applicants follow through on all the mitigation measures in association with folks from the Rocky Point Bird Observatory, I think that should make a really remarkable little spot. And I noted a letter in our correspondence regarding the wildlife corridors, and it was good to read in the report from Moti that they are indeed in this area, as well as was noted in the News Mirror last week, putting in these culverts that will be quote unquote fish friendly and ensure species to access the pond. So all around a very well done report, and good luck to everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman. Any other councillors? Okay, so I just would hope that the applicant, if you could just reach out to the adjacent neighbors, just over time as your plans unfold, so that they, I think it's more helpful when you can look at a drawing and sort of say, here's where I am and here isn't. So it is a challenge with the pandemic, but there is an opportunity just to reach out and to maybe talk a little bit more of your plans as they go forward. Really pleased to see the inclusion of both daycare and affordable housing. We recognize that while they may not be immediate plans, there could be some opportunity in the future. 17 Mile has long been a place, as Councillor Bateman noted, to greet weary travelers, but also a place where commuters like to gather and catch up with one another. So it could make for a really unique hub right at the entryway to our community. So we thank you for doing your utmost with the disruption and the highway works. It'll be uncomfortable as that work obviously unfolds over the next while, but certainly wish you the very best in your plans and hope that, and just wish you well, and it'll be exciting to see your plans unfold in the future. And I think there's a real opportunity to really mark this as the entryway to Sooke and all of that lies ahead. So thank you for coming forward with this, and we wish you the very best in your plans. So on that, I'll call for a vote, please. We have the motion moved and seconded. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Council. So we're moving on to item 7.2, which is a development variance permit for 6947 Grant Road West, please. So over to staff, please.
Thank you. So just on the screen here is the location of the subject application, and the owners applied for a development variance permit to vary the zoning bylaw, allowing to reduction in the setback from the natural boundary of a stream, being Knott's Brook, from 30 meters to 10 meters, which was supported by a qualified environmental professional through their recommendation in the Environmental Assessment and Riparian Areas Assessment Report. The proposed development includes replacing the existing trailer, which has since been demolished, at site number 43, which you see in the left-hand corner, the site area addressing, with two separate manufactured homes. The second manufactured home is to be added where site number 44 is indicated, and that is the one which is the subject of the variance tonight. The aerial photo here on the screen is showing the location of the manufactured home that is to be replaced and the new manufactured home, which is shown to be within the riparian area and requires the subject variance. So just with the cursor here on the screen. There's a 5-meter landscape buffer to the south of the two units, and this will remain as per the requirements of the manufactured home park zone. No trees will be removed with the replacement of Unit 43 or with the addition of the new manufactured home. As per the report, the redevelopment of this area is not expected to contribute further to the impacts on the riparian area, and the proposed new units and their associated parking spaces will be entirely located within previously disturbed lawn areas. The setback to the natural boundary of Knott's Brook is proposed to be reduced to 10 meters because this is an existing lawn that will remain as a lawn, and also to be used for parking associated with proposed unit number 44. The manufactured home, when built, will actually be 15 meters from the natural boundary, as shown on the preliminary survey here on the screen. The 15-meter setback is a floodplain requirement in Sooke's floodplain regulation bylaw. The development variance permit is supported by staff with the condition that the land be developed in accordance with the environmental assessment report dated February 2020, which includes the additional conditions presented in the staff report. That concludes my presentation. I don't believe the applicants are in attendance tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. So look back to members of council. If you have any questions on for staff, please, on tonight's matter. Councillor St. Pierre, and then I'll go to Councillor Lajeunesse.
Just some questions with regards to the Corvidae report and the correspondence from Roxanne Gallant and the report from our Parks Department. So all of them had some mitigation efforts in terms of preventing erosion and so on and so forth. I just wasn't sure whether or not the actual motion in terms of what it was saying actually included, for example, the recommendations of the Park Department, which, for example, included things like making sure the disturbed soil was actually replanted with local drought-resistant species to make sure that the stream would be protected and so on and so forth. So I'd like some clarification from staff on that. I was also curious because the correspondence from one of the residents seemed to indicate that when the trees went down in the past on that property, it affected, erosion, shade, and so on and so forth, and was curious as to whether or not the proponent was considering putting up additional trees to make for good neighbors, because that's a nice theme for tonight.
With respect to the trees, I haven't received any indication of that being any part of their plan with this application. So that may be something further that the applicant may wish to consider as part of their proposal, but wasn't indicated. In respects to the referral comments that were received, so number 3 in the recommendation indicates that sediment and erosion controls must be implemented before clearing and construction commence. So that would be something that needs to be to an acceptable standard. So in consultation with Environment and Parks, if that is what the control measures are to be put in place will meet what their expectations are, then that would satisfy that referral comment that was provided by staff.
Okay, do you have a follow-up, Councillor St. Pierre? Go ahead. Yep.
Yes, please. So this sounds like controls that are going to go into place before the actual work is done. But I think that what was being recommended by specifically Parks was actually something different, which was actually remedial work afterwards. So, how do you actually keep the invasive species out and so on and so forth? I'm curious as to whether or not there's going to be some sort of a landscape plan that would actually include that, and whether or not the proponent is going to be actually putting that into place.
There wouldn't be an additional landscape plan as part of this application. It would only be the requirements as indicated in the qualified environmental professionals report. So that would be something above and beyond what the recommendations were indicated, and that would need to be a separate recommendation to be included as part of the application.
Okay, I have Councillor Lajeunesse, then Councillor Logans, please.
Yeah, so the developments that have happened to the east and west of this one along Knott Creek have been required to dedicate parkland along the creek with the intent, I believe, to have a continuous trail network from John Phillips Park through to John Muir School and possibly Woodside Farm or near the treatment plant. And I'm just wondering, I think that's a good plan. And I'm just wondering if we're to do this, are we going to hamper that plan in the future?
So with those, with some of those developments that you had mentioned that would have gone through a more comprehensive development planning process, whether you know, a rezoning to indicate those types of additional parkland dedication requirements. Currently, as it stands right now, this site is identified, lot 44. So it is all part of the existing plan for the mobile home park, and what the variance is asking for is just to be able to locate within there. So should this not be supported tonight, that area would remain as is up until potentially a future time when the regulations change for the siting of this, or the applicant comes in again with an unaltered request to have a different setback requirement. So in terms of any further parkland dedication, it wouldn't be included as part of this application.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Logans.
Thank you. I wonder if staff has spoken with the applicant regarding the parking and if that could be moved. My concern with that is that with the parking being located next to, or actually within the SPIA, that any oil, gas, antifreeze, etc., could leak into that area and affect it, and also like soaps from washing your car or something like that. If it were located on the other side of the building, that might help with that situation. Of course, things can happen, but I just feel like it would be one way for us to mitigate it, but I don't know if that's been discussed with the applicant and what options they have in terms of arranging that lot.
So I'm not aware of any discussions between staff and the applicant to address the parking aspect of it. It was more a case of using existing lawn area right now. So not so much cutting into the SPIA area, but this is an area that currently exists as is, and then the parking would just be included over top. Of course, if the parking were to be suggested to be relocated, at that point, there wouldn't be any other further enforcement mechanisms in place other than going in and doing a common inspection from time to time, or receiving the complaint that the vehicle is being parked on the other side of the property. So that there would be, I guess, an enforcement aspect to that if it were to be changed in that regard.
No, sorry, that's definitely not what I want or was thinking at all. I mean, moving the mobile home closer to the SPIA or within the SPIA and having the parking on the flip side of it. But I don't know. I think it's something to think about, because yes, right now it's a grassy area, but it's not used for vehicles potentially. At least it doesn't look like that's where the track marks are when I look at the aerial view, but anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman.
Okay, so through you to Mr. Powell, I'm curious, referring back to, as Councillor St. Pierre mentioned, the parks referral from our Parks Department. And they noted two things. We encourage, this is the key word, encourage permeable surfacing in the parking area to reduce and slow runoff into the stream, into the SPIA. And likewise, Parks is recommending they encourage the applicant to improve adjacent vegetation by removing invasive species, planting native species. I'm curious, why are we encouraging and not insisting in this matter?
It would have to go in terms of bylaw regulations and requirements. So these would be recommended measures to further enhance the environment in the area should such an environmental hazard be present. But there's currently no specific regulations in place to mandate it as a requirement of the variance permit. So it's an encouraging statement for the applicant.
So we don't have the right to put and insist on those two matters.
Not present. Yeah, not presently. What is suggested with any of these reports is that as part of the recommendation that the applicant adhere to the qualified professionals' recommendations in that report, so then we can at least hold applicants responsible for whatever that professional's recommendations entailed.
So yet again, we'll have the security deposit and we can withhold that if indeed these things aren't done.
With this one, there isn't a landscaping plan or any further agreement specific to this application. It's more that the report itself will indicate for any types of developments that might be in contravention of what the qualified professional had indicated for the siting.
Okay, my other question regards, there's a reference to a landscaped buffer on the edge of the ALR land. What would that look like? Is that a hedgerow or?
There is a setback requirement for the zone as well. So I believe that is the required setback for the mobile home park zone. So the yard setback.
And finally, in the letter we received from Ms. Galat, she's concerned about too many vehicles on this particular lot. Is there a restriction on the number of vehicles?
None that I'm aware of. This is a fairly older mobile home park. So the requirements that we're more accustomed to today with developments such as the town center that have those parking regulations aren't currently in place to monitor and enforce with this specific property.
And again, we can't add a clause that would insist on a certain number of cars. No.
Correct. This application is dealing specifically with the variance from the riparian area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions from members of council? I'll just ask our corporate officer, we have received some written correspondence, but is there any registered members of the public to speak to council either through Teams or on the phone?
No, Your Worship, there is not.
Okay, thank you. So it's just the written submissions. Councillor St. Pierre?
I guess I was just looking for final clarification. So we have a report from the Corvidae, we have a report from Parks, but we have on what should be done, but it's not in our bylaws, and we have no mechanism, even though we're being asked for a variance, to ask that the work that is appropriate should be done. Is that actually correct, Mr. Paolo? Because I mean, it's a little frustrating, I have to say.
So, council can make further recommendations on the controls with regards to the sediment and erosion, as indicated in the recommendation. But as Parks and Environment had indicated, they recommended certain encouragement mechanisms to perhaps further enhance the environment. So if the applicant was willing to undertake that on a voluntary measure, that would be beneficial to the community.
Okay. Councillor Logans?
Yeah, and I think on Councillor St. Pierre's point, our options are to vote in favor or against this as well. So where we don't have, and that's sort of where I fall with this one, is that there are a lot of things we won't have control over, and it does seem a bit like it might have a larger effect on the area than some other applications that we've seen come forward. So I don't know how comfortable I am moving this forward.
Okay, sorry, I just heard a very loud piercing sound. Okay, so there's no motion on the floor as of yet. However, I'm just going to see if, and that Councillor Logan's rather summarized it, just given the staff report, that would be an option for council, is either approve it or you don't, because staff have come forward with the best they can under these circumstances. Okay, so seeing no further, oh, Councillor Beddoes, I see your hand. Question? I believe you're on mute.
All right, sorry, I'm willing to
There we
make the
go.
motion that we accept the recommendations for this variance, and I'll speak to that.
Okay, so for clarity, I do need to read it out, and that is that council issue development variance permit PLN 01567 to vary bylaw number 600, Sooke zoning bylaw 2013, section 3.22b, to reduce the setback from a natural boundary of a stream from 30 meters to 10 meters in accordance with the Corvidae Environmental Consulting, Inc. Environmental Assessment Report dated February 2020 for the purpose of accommodating a new manufactured home, unit number 44, subject to the following conditions. 1, that the qualified environmental professional demarks the SPIA prior to land clearing and construction. 2, that temporary fencing is installed along the vegetated edge between the area of the proposed works and the 10-meter SPIA prior to land clearing and construction. And 3, sediment and erosion controls must be implemented before clearing and construction commence. So Councillor Beddoes has moved that. Is there a seconder for the motion? Seconded by Councillor McMath. So speaking on the recommendation or the motion, I'll go to Councillor Beddoes, then McMath. Go ahead, Councillor Beddoes.
Yeah, normally alarm bells go off with me when I see a setback go from 30 meters down to 10 meters. But after going down and viewing the site and having a look at the environmental impact, which I thought was extremely well done, and a lot of good things in there. But the bottom line is that the environmental impact statement said there'd be no negative impact on the creek. And that to me was what did it in for me. So I'm willing to okay this variance, even though it's a big one. And I am a little worried about precedent, but viewing the site and down there where the creek is and seeing where some of those other buildings, how close they are, I'm okay with it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Beddoes. Councillor McMath.
Yeah, I would echo similar sentiments. The other piece is what seems to happen every once in a while is we get caught up in how we would like things to go on independent projects, but rather than sort of flipping from like your personal preference for each property, that's something that council needs to review. Like that's our function, is to adjust the policy if you don't like it, not to punish applicants for that. So it's either you're okay with this going forward or not, but the comments on what is enforceable and what is not enforceable, that's not an applicant's responsibility, that's our responsibility. So I'm satisfied with the assessment that's been done, so I'm supporting the motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Logans.
Thank you. Our responsibility is also to vote on this particular motion because it's come forward to decide whether or not to impact the SPIA. So I do appreciate the professional report. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And with our staff report, I just believe that the particular mitigations that have to be taken in order for no impact to actually occur in reality, they don't quite jive with me. So I'll be voting against the motion.
Councillor St. Pierre.
I agree with Councillor Logans, especially given that the actual recommendation in the motion is referring to the report and says, let me see specifically, in accordance with the Corvidae environmental consulting report, but it doesn't seem to be in accordance, except that the report says that it's not a problem, so don't worry about anything else. Right now, we've got the parks and the report both saying that we should put some more mitigation into place to protect the stream in the future. But the only thing we're seeing here is the green light. And I understand that we don't have the tools, but we are the tool. Unfortunately, we're all tools. It's just the way it goes. So let's be comfy with that and be good tools.
Okay, thank you, Councillor St. Pierre. Other speakers, Councillor Bateman?
Yeah, I'm learning continually about what we can and cannot necessarily do. It would be wonderful if there was a gentleman's agreement with the applicant that he would in fact take the recommendations seriously by our Parks Department. This will, I believe the pad rental is something in the order of $500 a month. So this is a significant new income for the applicant. And so, yeah, I'm conflicted and I'm not decided yet, so.
Okay, other comments from any member of council? I appreciate everyone's perspective on this. In some ways, this is an existing, it's not like one new manufactured park that's coming and therefore triggering many different criteria. This is a zone and a project that's been in place in our community, and now, as I understand it, one unit was destroyed, so it's being replaced. I guess my challenge is that it's not just one, it's two coming in. So at the same time, though, we want to see more attainable housing and affordable housing, but in this case, it's not replacing one for one, it's replacing two for one, thus triggering the variance. And then the report is, as you say, is listed off this or that, but there is no further requirement on the applicant because it's all cleared at this point. So whatever we ask that is nice to have doesn't have to happen because it meets the criteria to meet the variance. If that makes sense. It just is what it is. Of course, we can always ask that people go beyond and strive for excellence in a project, but it would not, there is no mechanism to actually grab that in this particular recommendation. Other comments from members of council? Okay. So there is a motion then that's been moved and seconded. So I will call the question then. All those in favor, please. And those opposed. So Councillor Beddoes, McMath, and Lajeunesse are in favor. I have Councillor Bateman, St. Pierre, Logans, and myself are opposed. So the motion is defeated. The variance is not approved. Okay, moving on to item 8, we have adoption of minutes. So these are meeting minutes from our regular council meeting of January 25th. Look for a mover and a seconder for adoption, please. Move adoption by Councillor St. Pierre, seconded by Councillor Bateman. So this would be to adopt the minutes as circulated. Any questions or corrections on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please. And that's unanimous, thank you. Item 9, report of our Chief Administrative Officer. So I'll turn this to Mr. McInnes, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am just going to share my screen here with you. Does that show up properly?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Thank you. So 3 quick updates today. I'll give you a quick update on a number of things on Tait. The COVID-19 updates from Friday and 3 o'clock today from Dr. Henry, and a protocol and cooperation partnership template that the School District 62 would like the District of Sooke to consider. So on Tait, the library build is going well, but we did run into a little bit of a hiccup last week, again on hydro cost. There is they have a change order from their contractor for some of the on-site work. Really not a a responsibility of the district, but I am in discussions with Viral about the impacts of that. And Councillor Bateman, you may hear about it at the next Bureau meeting, but I'm quite sure that we can work through this and rely on some of the provisions that BC Hydro has, including their extension fee refund program, for them to recoup some of the costs. So just a heads up that there was that issue that we talked about last week with the library build. The Sooke Region's Community Health Network, the BC Housing Grant has been submitted. We all have our fingers crossed that it's successful, and we'll update council as soon as we know the status of their grant. And the youth survey has been completed, and Searchin has booked time for the March Committee of the Whole meeting to bring that up to speed with council. And just lastly on Latte, Mr. Paulo has been speaking with the owners of Evergreen Shopping Center about access. Our town center work shows access going right through the middle of the grocery store. That's not going to happen in the short term. So we're looking at access through Evergreen into Lot A, and we'll bring council up to speed as those discussions continue on as well. The COVID-19, both on Friday and today, the basic thing that has happened is the current restrictions have been extended, and they've been extended indefinitely. So I have two recommendations on my last slide here, and one of the recommendations will deal with how we continue to do virtual meetings for council and committee meetings. And the last one is the protocol from the school division. There are a number of whereas clauses, some general objectives, and a therefore clause. But basically, the spirit of the protocol on cooperation and partnership is to seek, where possible, joint ventures that meet the community needs of both SD 62 and the District of Sooke. The implementation plan is to put together a working group with the superintendent, the chairman of the board, the mayor, and the chief administrative officer, who will meet quarterly, and that we convene an annual meeting between council and the District SD 62 board. The term of this agreement is 4 years, and we'll have a look at it again afterwards. So the therefore clause is that this protocol represents a commitment by SD 62 and the District of Sooke to work together to achieve local and community benefits of collaboration on issues of mutual interest. So those are my updates. My two recommendations is that council extend the virtual council and committee meetings indefinitely to align with the February 6, 2021 update from the provincial health officer. And a second recommendation is that Mayor Tait sign the protocol for cooperation and partnership with the Sooke School District number 62. And that's my update for today, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McInnes. I'll turn first to members of council, just if you have any questions on the CAO's report, and then also then look at moving those particular recommendations. So first off, just any questions from members of council? Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, I must say the discussion of the protocol with SD 62 moved very quickly, so I didn't quite take it all in. So could you give us a quick recap?
I can, and I'm hoping to find my printed sheet, but I can't find it here. So let me just have a quick look here. Oh, I don't want to do that again. So the whereas clauses is that SD 62 and the District of Sooke have common interests in the social, economic, and environmental well-being of our community. And there are things that we share specific goals in, including joint use agreements, school site selection, And we do have the Sun River School that is on the books right now for build in 2027 opening. So and we're working on a lot of things. There's a healthy school, healthy communities committee that I'm sitting on. Lots of stuff sort of in that social realm that the school district is involved in. So more or less just an awareness of what both organizations are doing and trying to find those things where there's mutual benefit that we can work together on. So nothing really earth-shattering, but just a commitment that we do make a commitment to this working group where the CEO and the mayor meet with the chairman and the superintendent quarterly and then convene the annual meetings between the board and council.
Oh, that's fantastic. Long overdue, I imagine. Thank you.
Councillor St. Pierre?
That sounds actually absolutely fabulous. I'm curious because it has come up in the past working with the schools in terms of advancing the OCP while we're restricted by COVID in terms of how to reach out to families. Do you know if that'll be something that'll be discussed relatively soon, if possible? Just curious because it would be wonderful.
I'm sorry, can you restate that, Councillor St. Pierre? I'm not sure I heard it correctly.
Not a problem. Through your worship, I guess I should say. I was curious because it has come up in the past whether or not this protocol would give us some new avenues for actually doing better work with our OCP in conjunction with the school district. Obviously there's an opportunity here to reach out through kids, to parents, to families, going through the COVID bubbles and actually getting feedback during our OCP review. And I was just wondering if that was actually going to be considered or, come up reasonably quickly or at all.
Well, the cooperation with SD62 and the OCP in particular, I think, has been quite well. I have really enjoyed some of the graphics that some of the school kids provided through the first round of OCP engagement. My discussions with both the treasurer and the superintendent when we've been talking about this didn't necessarily focus on OCP. But some of those social issues were really the driver behind the desire to, and they're doing this with Colwood and Langford as well, just to understand, I think both the school district and local government, we have a systems blockage where we've, got these things that really aren't our jurisdiction, and we've hid behind that somewhat in the past. I think we have to find ways to be at the table, not necessarily be service providers in some of these issues, but understand what's going on for the wellness of our community. And starting with families makes some sense to me.
Okay. Other questions? No, I do appreciate the piece on the school with the school district has, it's just come about tonight. And it is long overdue. I know that early on this council had tried to reach out to have sort of a joint meeting with the trustees so we could share, what our vision were and all those things and a meet and greet. However, there was a reluctance, I feel, more on their part than ours, because what would be the meeting? It's more a meet and greet, and these are our priorities, what are yours? And certainly we've reached out to include the trustees with our strategic planning sessions and many other forms of engagement. And then, of course, things changed, obviously, due to COVID. But certainly in the first year of our term, we were doing extensive outreach there. I think there is shared agreements, like where the skate park is. While it is Sea Park and the school district, it's still our council and our members of our councils that do sit on Sea Park, Chair Beddoes for sure, and others, and also our 80, we pay 80% of that requisition, so we're certainly there. And then in terms of the longer range facilities, it always feels to me that it's this moving target, because when I look at the first facilities plan, that school would have been built now, and then it changes, and that's where Councillor Logans and I have reached out and had meetings with the Minister of Education directly to say, okay, like, this is what we were told, this is what's happening, and then we keep moving down the line, and now I'm hearing 2027, which is a lot different than what was said when the chair presented in chambers not too long ago. So I get it that, you know, we look at enrollment. So that's where we really need to start sharing data, because for me, the schools are aging. Our enrollment will grow, but the schools are still not sprinklered, not earthquake safe, still on a busy highway, more growth. Like, they're not magically becoming younger over time. They're sitting there. So you know, those are things that we're growing and changing and getting different feedback from our community. So I think it is opportune to actually formalize something so there is adequate follow-up and not just a reaction back and forth with both parties, because I said something on the news that there's a reaction to. It was suggested that I reach out to the minister responsible directly for more budget allocations for SD 62, because yes, there's growth in Langford and Colwood, but our community is growing as well. So we did an advocacy last year to the Minister of Education. That minister's changed, and the new minister is saying, go back and talk to your school trustees. I'm like, we're just going in this circle right now, and I feel like it's a merry-go-round that I just want to stop. So how can we action items together? And of course, as we plan out our road connection, that's going to have a severe impact on the schools and safe egress and so forth. So it's timely to work together, and I'm comfortable with something formal, because then there can be continued follow-up. And when is that meeting going to happen? And what is it going to look like? And just so we can actually start more of that collaboration and that work together. Councillor Logans? Not much of a question there, but
yeah, I know.
anyway.
I feel the same way. But if I need to move the motion to speak, I will.
Yeah.
But I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us, and something we can definitely jump on. I know that we're very, very lucky in our school district to have amazing people working in their leadership and in their board of directors. So we would be in a great position to work with them collaboratively on different projects and to advocate for them and the children and students in our community. I know one of the things that Mayor Tait and I discussed with the minister and with the school district was even community spaces, because a lot of our schools have spaces that the community uses after hours, and we're really fortunate to have that smoothly running system. So where we lack in a lot of community spaces, the school not that I'm not pressuring them into anything, but they can in some ways help the community out as well. So it's a little give and take, and it would be a really good idea for us to all put our thinking caps on and meet regularly. I think it's a fantastic idea.
Thank you, Councillor Logans. So I don't have the, so I'm going to start with that one because that one was easy. I think it was that council, no, I need to see the slide. I'm sorry. I don't have the recommendation. It was something that council support or authorize Mayor Tait to sign the MOU agreement. What is it? Oh, that Mayor Tait signed the protocol for cooperation and partnership with the school district, Sooke School District number 62. So I'll start with that one. Moved by Councillor Logans and seconded by Councillor Bateman, I heard. Okay. Is there any further comments on this item? I think we're good. I'll call the question. So all those in favor, and if you're opposed, say nay so I can hear you, because I can't see you. So that's everyone in favor. So that's unanimous. Okay, thank you. The other one was that council extend virtual council and committee meetings indefinitely to align with the February 6, 2021 update from the provincial health officer. So that has come out obviously from the province. So we're sort of following that. So I'll look for a mover and a seconder, and then we can discuss this. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Logans, I saw. Any comments, Councillor St. Pierre? No, I'm seeing no. Okay, Councillor Logans, anything? No. It is what it is, unfortunately. I'd like to say that we should do this in a month, but I just sense that month after month, we're going to discuss this. I think I've heard Dr. Henry say that as things, I don't know if lighten up, and it's not her word, it's mine now, but that they will either put in more restrictions or ease some. But it just seems that it's just, this is our reality. And I'm just grateful that we have the opportunity to get on with the work that we need to do. It's the way it is. We'll just deal with it and do our best. Okay, so any other questions? And I thank all of you for really being engaged and focused in everything. It's really appreciated. Okay, so I'll call the question, please. All those in favor? And that's unanimous as well. Thank you, Mr. McInnes, for your update and for council for working through that. So that brings us to item 10, which is our public question and comment period. We had the public earlier for the 2 items. I'll just confirm with our corporate officer, is there anyone else that has come into the meeting for any other items?
Worship, there has not.
Thank you. So I think just for the viewing public, I'm just trying to be as transparent as I can here. Item 11 is our consent agenda. So that is that agenda item 11.1 be adopted by general consent. Moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Logans. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to Section 12, which is our reports. The first one is 12.1, Community Parks Commercial Use Fee Reduction. So there's a report here along with a recommendation. Is there any questions for staff? The report seemed quite straightforward. Councillor Bateman. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious, you know, obviously these kids will add nothing but life and spark to the park, and but my question, not a comment, is do we know the kind of fees that are being charged by Western Educational Adventures for their summer camps?
Through your worship to Councillor Bateman, we do not know exactly what their fees are, but from staff's perspective, it's a fair request. The rate we charge is a day rate, and they're requesting to use it 2 hours a day over the 10 weeks. So the request is taking it down from $100 an hour, which our fee would impose at a day rate, to the $20 per hour what they're requesting.
I think 25 to be exact. And just to confirm, this community parks bylaw will be revised in the near future. I think it's a Parks and Trails Master Plan action point.
Through your worship, Councillor Bateman, yes, Ms. Hooper will be looking at revisions and possible amendments to the bylaw to update it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I hope we'll look at a tiered charge, because there are you know, fitness instructors, user groups who aren't making a lot of money, and others who might make more.
Okay, so that'll be another policy discussion to come later. But just for a bit of perspective, I don't know about the fees for this particular group, but often a week-long sort of summer camp is about $250 per week. As a parent, I know that because I have to look at it. So, and then it varies according to the programming and so forth. But yeah, starting point anyway. And that's what CPART charges. So it may be more because CPART's publicly funded and offset by taxes. Anyway, so the recommendation here is that council reduce the commercial use fees for the use of municipal parks for Western Educational Adventures in accordance with Section 8 of the Community Parks Regulation Bylaw to $850. Do we have a mover by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor McMath? Any comments on the motion from Councillor St. Pierre? Councillor McMath? Nope. Anything from any other member of council? Just thank you, staff, for keeping in mind affordable childcare is important. So we'll call the question. All in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item up is 12.2 is AVICC or AVIC resolutions. And this is here for information. That is, that council receive the report on AVIC resolutions for information. Moved by Councillor McMath and seconded by Councillor Beddoes. Councillor McMath, any comment? No. Councillor Beddoes, any comment? Councillor St. Pierre, any comment? I saw your hand. No. Okay. So I'll call the question then. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item up is item 13. We're into our bylaw section. So first one up is 13.1, and that is that council adopt the bylaw cited as building bylaw number 780/2020. Move adoption by Councillor Logans and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any comments? Nope. All those in favor, please. And anyone opposed? We're all in favor. Or were you opposed, Councillor St. Pierre? You're in favor. Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, next up, 13.
Could I comment quickly? I'm sorry, I didn't get my hand up quickly enough.
No, we've adopted it, so we've had a lot of discussion.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah,
just
we went through all the readings. Yep.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. 13.2 Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 772/2020, and that is that council adopt the bylaw cited as Fees and Charges Amendment Bylaw number 772/752-01/2020. Moving adoption by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any comments? See none. All those in favor? Okay, in favor, perfect. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next up is 13.3. So that is that council adopt the bylaw cited as Officers and Delegation of Authority Amendment Bylaw number 810-672-03/2021. So let's move adoption by Councillor Logans and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. And we're on adoption. So any questions, comments? No. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimous. Thank you. Moving right along, 13.4. So for 7116 Grant Road West. So the first part here, we're going to break these up. Actually, is there a staff report for this? It's just receiving this information. Is there anything that staff needs to add to the written report?
Yeah, through your worship to council, I can't share my screen. It's just basically showing a property shot of the subject property at 7116. It is also included in the report. There are no capacity issues with this request for RU4 rural residential zone, single family, and staff has no concerns, and you'll have the recommendation in front of you for consideration.
Okay. So I'll tune first to see, are there any questions from members of council regarding this one for 7116? Questions? Anyone have anything? Okay. So the recommendation is that council receive the petition for local area service for the property located at 7116 Grant Road West, legally described as Lot 1, Section 20, Sooke Land District Plan, VIP 18735, except Parcel A, DD F36072. So look for a mover, please. Moved by Councillor McMath and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Any comments, McMath or St. Pierre? Anyone else from council? Nope. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. The second one is that council give first, second, and third reading to the bylaw cited as Sooke Core Sewer Specified Amendment Bylaw number 788-147-39/2020. So moved by Councillor Logans and seconded by Councillor McMath. Any comments, Councillor Logans or McMath? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 13.5 for 7124 Grant Road West. Turn over to Mr. Carter. Is there anything further for this report?
Thank you, Worship. No, nothing further for this report. Very similar to the last, no capacity issues. It is their neighbor for an RU4 rural residential, and staff are in support of this inclusion request, and you have the recommendation for consideration in front of you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. So the first part then is that council received the petition for local area service for the property located at 7124 Grant Road West, legally described as Lot A, Section 20, Sooke District Plan 16540. So moved by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. Any comments? All those in favor, please. Receipt. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. The second part of that is that council give first, second, and third reading to the Sooke Core Sewer Specified Area Amendment Bylaw number 808-147-40-2020. Moved by Councillor Beddoes and seconded by Councillor Lajeunesse. Any comments, Councillor Beddoes, Lajeunesse? Anyone? That's good. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So new business item. I think the new business actually falls right into 15.3, 4, and 5. So I think we're good to just continue here. So our first item under
13.6.
There's one more bylaw.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry, that's right. You did. Sorry. Thank you for catching me. The unsightly premises amendment bylaw. Okay, thank you for that catch. Turn back to staff, please, for 13.6.
Thank you, Your Worship. This bylaw is before council this evening to consider an amendment to the unsightly premises bylaw that would very specifically stipulate that the trees and hedges that staff will respond to are on private property, but only as they affect public property, and that the issues between private property owners would not be addressed by staff. As mentioned in the report, there were approximately 10 calls for staff to respond to last year in 2020, particularly heavy in the fall and winter months. And of those 10, 6 had to have the park staff and an arborist attend. And there were not found to be any issues with that. Most typically in most municipalities, it is a civil issue between neighbors. So we would just like to have that clarification in our bylaw and put our resources to better use.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Machada. Are there questions from members of council? It's pretty straightforward in the report. So the recommendation is that council give first, second, and third reading to the bylaw cited as unsightly premises and objectionable situations amendment bylaw number 811-296-1 2021. So look for a mover, please, by Councillor Bateman and seconded by Councillor McMath. Any comments, Councillor Bateman or McMath? No. Okay, anyone else? See none, I'll call the question then. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we'll move on to new business. So we see here there's a notice of motion from Councillor Beddoes that council consider Diane Morin's request for 500 to put on a virtual art exhibition for Mental Health Awareness Week. So clarity, Ms. Machada, this is a notice of motion. So are we debating this tonight, or is this being read in so that we debate it at the next meeting?
The way it is presented this evening is for discussion at the next meeting unless council chooses to waive notice.
Okay, so I think we'll keep with the typical notice of motion. So this will flow to our next meeting. Okay. Item 15 is correspondence requiring action. So that is 15.1, the Capital Regional District Youth and Family Court Committee Service. So Councillor Bateman, may I turn to you for this item?
Yes, you may. The Victoria Youth Family Court is undergoing a CRD review. CRD has something like 60 committees. All of them in due course will undergo a review of their establishing bylaws and the procedures. In the case of the Victoria Family Court, it was founded back in the early 80s, and it is it's due for a review. several of the council appointees from other municipalities had some issues with the procedure and certain practices. So that was brought forward to the CRD board, and they requested the review, and it's well underway. We've had 2 meetings with CRD lawyer Stephen Carey, and there's some good, strong recommendations. I think the committee's been given every opportunity to shape its future, and I think a number of you have been on this committee. Councillor Logans and Tait have both been on it, and it's a fascinating group of people who link. It's a link for South Island councillors, trustees, and citizen appointees to get to understand frontline service providers in areas like family law, justice system, sexual assault, mental health, and other things. So some wonderful work done, and I really hope things will proceed. It's well done to the CRD and to the committee in working with this. So that's it.
Thank you, Councillor Bateman, and you're correct. I did sit on this in my very first term of council, actually, so very familiar with the work, although it's evolved since then. So at this point, it's here for our information, unless as the CRD does it work, but there's nothing more formal that I think we have to do at this point. Yeah, okay. So it'll be a motion to receive for information, please. Moved by Councillor McMath and seconded by Councillor Beddoes. That would be correct, right, Councillor Beddoes? Or pardon me, Bateman, we're just getting the information, right? Because there's the review is going back to the CRD. Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll call the question on receipt. All those in favor, please. None opposed. That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Next up is just a letter from the mayor of Natori. You may recall last year we had looked to begin the process of formalizing our friendship city into a formal sister city arrangement. And of course, like everything else, that sort of went out the window. However, we have been exchanging emails and some correspondence to date, just to sort of continue on with that, continue building the relationship. And we are in the process of meeting virtually in Zoom in the coming weeks. So just finding times, given that there's a 17-hour time difference. So I do look forward to that meeting, and I just wanted to share here that it would be quite something in the years to come if we could actually kick this off and share some learnings in the future. But I just wanted to bring it here just to share that they're still very interested in working with us. I think we have a real opportunity to learn and work together in the future. It's only the Pacific Ocean that's separating us. So, but the world has gotten smaller, and there's a lot that we could gain from this relationship. So it's more just here for your information, and also to let you know that we're continuing to have these conversations. Councillor Logans? I saw your hand.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this forward, because it's just so sweet to have someone across the world thinking about us, especially during this time. And I did want to read the line that it says, "I pray for the health and happiness of everyone in Sooke." So that goes out to everybody, and I just think that's so heartwarming.
Thank you very much for catching that, Councillor Logans. Okay, so a motion to receive, please. Moved by Councillor McMath and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. There's just a couple other items. I'm just cognizant of taking a break. Do you mind if we just take a short recess for 5 minutes and then we can finish off the last couple of items? Is everyone okay with that? Okay, so I see 8:36, so we'll see you back here at 8:41. It's just 5 minutes to the viewing public. Thank you. Okay, council, as we return to the meeting, just if you could please just turn your cameras on, and then I know once I have everyone, we can continue on. Excellent, thank you. So I don't see Councillor McMath, but I'm sure she'll join us momentarily, and we have quorum. So I'm going to continue on here with item 15.3. So this will be in your supplemental part of the agenda here. In the supplemental link, we have just the public correspondence on the items we dealt with, and the other one, 15.3. What I wanted to include here was as you may recall, way back last year, council supported a motion I brought forward at July 27th about the deferment program for seniors and those that, because of the change, incurred penalties. So what has happened is we've sent letters out, and then it still has not been resolved by the province. However, I am concerned, or what has happened is that within our own district, of course, there's follow-up letters that go out. So the reason why this is here is that it's sending a conflicting message to residents. So if we're sending out reminder letters that there's property tax, and then meanwhile I'm telling some that I'm advocating to have the penalties waived, it sends a mixed message. So part of my request here is to ask staff to please not send any more of those penalties, but also ask, how can we get this resolved? I raised it in a recent teleconference meeting that Minister Osborne has, and so hence the follow-up letter. But I just want to be sure that we're not sending out any reminder letters of late payment when we're also trying to get them waived. So maybe I can just ask staff, like, can we not do that? Or what, do you require a resolution from council so that we don't send out the reminder letters? The confusing part is that the previous minister had said that, had written back and said, oh, you can do this per the community charter, but it actually is incorrect. We can't do that. We need the province to write this off. So we're just sort of stuck in this weird place, but I do know that it's creating some stress on some of our residents that are impacted by this, and I want to alleviate any of that unnecessary stress completely. So this is why it's here. It's just this weird timing of this, but I'm frustrated that it's been 6 months without it being resolved. So could I have an answer from staff, please? What more can we do? Can we stop sending out notices? What do you require from us to make that happen?
I have to do some research. If there may be a legislative requirement that we send out the notices. If that is the case, then I'm not sure there's anything council can do. If that's not the case, we won't send out the notices, and I'll inform council of that. Okay, do you require a motion at this point? No, because if it's a legislative requirement, unfortunately, the province trumps local government, so it would have no effect. If that discretion is available to council, then we just won't send out the notices, and I'll just let you know that that's the case. Okay, but if you do find out that it is legislative requirement that we send out these notices, can you please let me know? Because then I think we need to send another letter back to the province and ask them to please remedy the situation. Absolutely, I'll let council know one way or the other. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. McInnes. So on that, it's here for your information. So motion to receive, please. Moved by Councillor McMath and seconded by Councillor St. Pierre. Yeah, I just want to have it resolved. It's just been a long time now. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimous. Thank you. So let's hear for information. The next one is 15.4, the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. And that is here. So Councillor St. Pierre, please. I think you pulled, did you refer this one, or Councillor Bateman? I'm sorry, I'm not. Oh, no, it is requested from Councillor St. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
I can speak to it briefly. Basically, we've got a professor from the University of Victoria that's been working with Saanich to basically support the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration. It fits in with our climate declaration. It fits in with the volunteer work that happens through our parks when COVID isn't, happening. In terms of what Saanich has actually agreed to do, I don't think it's too far outside of what we're already doing. So essentially, it would be promoting something that we're already doing and aligning with Saanich on this one and promoting the ecosystem restoration. What I'm really looking for in this is to find out whether or not this would actually involve any significant staff resources, or whether or not this just fits in and we can just move forward with this kind of honestly, a feel-good kind of declaration. So I'm trying to find out, I guess the first question is to staff, whether or not, and whether they can answer that question now, whether or not this would require a lot of resources and whether or not we can manage it.
Your worship, to Councillor St. Pierre, can't answer that now. We'd have to have a look and see what it entails. It doesn't look as though there's anything that would significantly influence staff time, but I'd like to have a further look at it.
So not sure where to go from here. I don't know if we need again, a motion from council or just.
So maybe we, what you could do is just postpone this to the next meeting, because it's not for a particular week or a day. No, it's a decade. So we have time. So maybe it'll just be a motion to postpone this to the next regular meeting. In the meantime, we could also, I meant to look this up, is just what proclamation did the mayor sign? So we could also look at that and do something similar as we do for others, but we could have that all just come to the next regular meeting.
Sounds good.
Okay, so motion to postpone to the next regular meeting by Councillor St. Pierre. Okay, is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Logans. Thank you. Any further comment? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question then. All those in favor of postponement? And thank you, that's carried unanimously. And the next one is the 15.5, the 2021 BC Economic Summit. So Councillor St. Pierre has also pulled this. It is coming up fairly soon, but I'll turn it over to Councillor St. Pierre.
I brought it up because I felt that Councillor Lajeunesse should probably have an opportunity to attend and shouldn't have to pay for it if he wishes to. So I did contact him. He does have an interest in attending. So it's really just a matter of whether or not we're going to defray his costs. And I guess if anybody else is interested in attending. But
okay. I'm just looking through this, and do you know what it just says, do we know how much the registration is? Because that would be important to know.
No, it actually said $50. Like it wasn't specific in this particular document, but it's going to be online. So I would assume not a lot, but let's maybe find out first. Maybe find out from staff. I don't know.
We would need that. So we would need to just look that up quickly here.
Okay, hold on.
I've got it right here, Your Worship.
Okay.
Individual members, and we do have a corporate membership, the District of Sooke. Individual registration is $325.
Okay. And Councillor Lajeunesse, you're being volunteered to attend this, but I understand that you're interested, so that's good, and you're available, which helps. So the resolution would be then that council approve the expenditure of $325 for Councillor Lajeunesse to attend the 2021 BC Economic Development Summit from Council Travel and Expense Fund. So moved by Councillor St. Pierre and seconded by Councillor Bateman. Yeah. Were there other councillors that, I know this falls into the community economic development realm. However, we do have a shared leadership within this model, within this community. So are other members of council interested in attending this? I don't want to exclude someone who may also be interested or available to attend.
I am
Seeing,
interested, but I'm not available.
that's my problem as well. Interested, but not. So I don't want to try to attend. Yeah, so Councillor Lajeunesse, we expect a full report should this motion pass. Complete
I
with,
will be there.
okay. All right, no, thank you everyone. It's just, you can't even be on 2 Zoom calls at once without missing out on the content of one. So I'll call the question then. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So I believe that brings us, just make sure I'm not skipping something, that brings us to the end of our reports there. So this brings us to item 16, council verbal reports. Any updates from members of council? Councillor Beddoes, please.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you saw it, but I was approached by BCTV through our communications person to do an interview in regards to the OCP. And Matthew Bylaw and I were both on BCTV. I didn't see it because I missed it on the news that night, but we told what a wonderful community Sooke is and all those wonderful things that we should be saying. So just let you know that happened.
That's great. Thank you very much, Councillor Beddoes, for taking that opportunity. Councillor Bateman.
Yeah, Councillor Beddoes, what night was that? Because they do have archives. You remember?
It's last Wednesday or Thursday, I think.
Yeah, well, there's a whole story too, but I won't get into because this is still open to the public. But there was a bit of a snafu, so I think it was supposed to be Tuesday night, and in fact, it was Wednesday night.
Okay.
Last week.
A week ago.
I'm saving these links. There was a wonderful one with Councillor McMath back before, maybe around Christmas.
I mean, I spoke
well.
for a good five minutes, but what they put on the TV is it can be totally different. I might get 2 seconds, but anyway, I did my best, and it sounded good when I was saying it. But let's see what happens.
All right. So yeah, I attended along with a couple of us the Local Government Leadership Academy truncated conference last week, and it was really good. I didn't get on the winners poll for the getting engaged part. I know Councillor Lajeunesse finished, I think, in the top 10. Yeah. But I especially appreciated the roundtable on climate sustainability and climate change, which focused very much on all the good stuff that Saanich is doing. And there's a lot of great examples to look at in that community for the application here in Sooke in a smaller Sooke size kind of way. The diversity and leadership panel that was moderated by our mayor Tait, that was quite eye-opening, and there's so much good progress and also some big challenges still. And there was the session on building constructive council relations. So the 125 delegates shared their various experiences, and again, that goes from just nightmarish to really functional. And I think we fall in the functional end of things, so that's great. On another subject, the Climate Action Committee continues to figure itself out. We've had our first meeting. We have a second one in a couple of weeks, and yeah, that's going really well. Great group of people, and yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bateman. Councillor Logans.
Hi, thank you. I believe, is it Councillor St. Pierre who is my alternate for the JDF Water Commission?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, there is a meeting coming up this Wednesday at noon. I know it's short notice, but I'm unable to attend it, so I'm wondering if you would like to, and we can talk about it later if you want to, but I just had to say it now before it was too late. And if that's the case, we can email and I'll send you the details. But I did want to use my time to thank some of our staff. I'm trying. It's not easy during COVID to really even know what everyone's up to, but there were a few standouts this past week. Jen Royer Collard is always a standout. She always demonstrates ongoing excellence and amazing service to council and the community. So I did want to thank her for everything she's done for us this week, as well as, of course, to Norm McInnes, our CAO, for bearing with us over the past week and also for leading so boldly with such wonderful passion and fearlessness. It's really wonderful to have you come into our community from somewhere else and just really care for it with all of your heart. So thank you very much for that. And a quick shout out to Angel and Deb for helping me with a long overdue task this week. It is much appreciated. And of course to Ms. Carolyn Machada for everything that you do in terms of randomly working on technical issues through these meetings. And honestly, just your intelligence and patience is very outstanding, and we appreciate you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Logans, for taking the time to do that. So very much. Other members of council with any updates? I see Councillor Lajeunesse and then Councillor St. Pierre.
Yeah, ditto to Councillor Logan's comments about gratitude to staff. So I had a pretty busy couple of weeks actually. C-Park meeting, the CRD Arts Commission, not much to report from there, but the LGLA, of course, that was lots of fun, and always something to learn from getting together with groups of our colleagues from around the province. Even though I've actually done it physically once, so it's but the virtual conference went really well, I thought, and yeah, I did win a book because I participated in the questionnaire that they had, so I have to thank Google for that. And and reading the program, there were a few of the answers were hidden in there as well, but no, it was all good, and yeah, starting to feel like I'm finding my feet a little bit finally.
Thank you, Councillor Lajeunesse and Councillor St. Pierre.
Just reporting back again on LGLA. So it was a really good event. Some good learning happened there, and I'm really hoping that we'll have a chance at some point to chat together over whatever, and kind of digest that and share it, because there was a lot everywhere from the inclusion in terms of some very specific things we could do. Lots of incredible stuff from Don Lidstone, specifically in terms of economic development. And there's so much to learn from that guy. We just need to go back and look at the records of that conference. There's so much to learn. So looking forward to actually teasing some of that out with anybody who's interested.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? So just thank councillors for attending the LGLA, and I thought everyone did a remarkable job, just given the constraints with the virtual convention. But there's obviously been significant enhancements or improvements in the software to make it a bit more seamless than even going back to when I was at UBCM. There's just been improvements as it becomes better and more used. So you may have noticed it was a blend of recorded, some sessions we pre-recorded, but then there was the live Q&A. So just how that all meshes together is actually quite fascinating from a participant's perspective there. And there was all the tips of making sure that we seat the same way in the same outfit, but it made a dramatic difference to my hair, so, and Christmas decorations. So it's just the way it goes, but it was great to see that, and also to see the level of engagement as high as it was. So for those of you who attended, you can look at your certificate because you can get local government certification. So something that may be nice to have, and you'll just need to look to make sure there's hours and requirements that are there for that. Just thank Councillor Bateman for attending the CPARK Commission meeting as my CRD alternate. And CPARK is a wonderful partner. They're doing their utmost as well, continually adapting to the restrictions and trying to advance as much programming as possible given the restrictions that are in place. So I just want to thank all of you for the work that you're doing on behalf of our community. There's a lot that everyone is juggling right now, but what I sense is just council is really committed to doing its absolute best to serve our community well, to represent as fairly as we can in these trying circumstances, and certainly to be as empathetic as we can, as there's just so much unknowns and uncertainty. So thinking of all of you, and on that, I just wish you all just be well and be strong, and thank you for all that you're doing. So on that, a motion to adjourn, please.
Your worship, we have our rise and report motion.
There's always something. Thank you for catching that, Councillor, or pardon me, Ms. Mushata. We do have the rise and report. I think that's back in the regular meeting, or if you could read it out, please. I'm going back and forth, so now I can't find it.
See, we can't function without her.
No, we can't. I'm totally lost.
Thank you for
Even
the
in
kind
chambers,
word,
this would
Councillor
happen.
Logans. The rise and report is that council rise and report on the following resolution from the February 2nd, 2021 in-camera meeting. 2021-19 in camera, that council directs staff to hire one temporary flex firefighter position for the remainder of 2021 to be financed from the COVID-19 Safe Restart Reserve Fund, and 2021-20 in camera, that council directs staff to create a full-time permanent approving officer position.
Good. Thank you very much for that catch, Ms. Mushata. And I think we're good. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everyone. A motion to adjourn, please. Moved by Councillor McMath, seconded by everyone, but I'll go with Councillor Logans. Stay safe. All those in favor, please. And that's carried unanimously. Okay, have a good night, everyone. Take good care.
Good night.